Good morning. Welcome to our webinar on developing effective marketing strategies and plans in a recession. My name is Diane Badami. I'm a professor in the Marshall School of Business of the University of Southern California. I want to welcome you to our session this morning. Marketing challenge that all of us are facing is how do we most effectively market our products and services during this recessionary time? And what do we really want to do to prepare for the future? This is a question that is challenging all of us marketers. And what I'd like to do is share a little bit of the research that we have done at the University of Southern California on marketing in a recession. First thing that we did is we looked at what could we learn from past recessions. Well, there are a lot of good things and a lot of things that we would like to might have done differently. But if you just think of some of the things that in past history, Ivory Silk created soap operas on radio and they became #1. Chrysler increased their ad spending. Ford cut back and Chrysler became #1. So what is it saying to us? Well, it's saying that sometimes in times of recession, people typically cut back. They don't really do anything new. They're trying to survive. But yet, some of these major companies have done some really wonderful things in a recession and have capitalized on it. Kellogg's was sponsored their first Admiral Byrd's trip to the South Pole and became #1. Again, being creative about what's going on. And RCA invested heavily in R&D and became #1. Again, a lot of companies don't invest in R&D. They cut back, and yet companies like RCA did invest and became #1. That was during the Great Recession. Now, other recessions as we look at that over time, 1975 recession, Chrysler introduced car rebates a long time ago. One thing said, well, I can't believe that it's 30 plus years old. Well, it is. So they introduced this and obviously became a winner. Charles Schwab offered discount brokerage service and became an industry leader, thinking outside of the box. What companies really need to do to survive and thrive in a time of recession is to really think differently. So the 1990 recession comes. Pizza Hut advertises Pizza Hut Pete. Not around anymore, but sales increased 71%. Again, something novel, something new. Taco Bell introduced their $59.79.99 menu. Sales soared. Nike tripled their ad spending. Reebok cut back, and Nike's profits obviously exceeded 9 times that of Reebok. Now, the 1992 recession. What's happened? Well, a similar thing. Volkswagen introduces its first protection plan for buyers and listens to what the market is want when people are losing jobs, and again, they increase their sales. Now, the average recession lasts about 11 months. Our recession now, according to the National Bureau of Economic Research, started in December of 2007. So we've now been in this recession a lot longer than 11 months, to the tune of about 26 months. But the average expansion lasts 71 months. And that was what happened in the last time we were in an expansionary period. So it kind of says, like, what's going on here? So now that this recession is so much longer than it has before, that even adds so much more impact. And some could say it's not only the Great Recession of the past, but it could be what we could call it is the Great Disruption. Because now we have disruptive technology, we have disruptive innovation, and now things are changing and won't go back to the way they were before. So we have to think differently. Marketers have to think differently. So what have we learned? We did some study among some top companies that are innovative in their fields or are obviously best practice in their industries. Japanese companies are cutting back more than American companies. Interesting. Companies with cash are investing in R&D wisely. There's also a focus on low-end and upper-end products. As people are looking for more value, that implies lower price. If you have lower price, it typically implies lower margin. If you have lower margin, how do you make it up on the other side? Go to the top end. So we're really looking at a stratification of the way in which marketers are looking at introducing new products. Business diversity is helping mitigate the impact of the recession. Again, as companies are looking at how can we continue to build and grow a business, they're looking outside of their home countries. They're going international. They're going abroad. They're doing different things in different channels. And big brands are going to BRIC. They're going to Brazil, Russia, India, and China. So, also, diversity is where we are looking at diversifying our product lines. Obviously, a lot of people are saying, what can we do differently? As needs differ in the recession, marketers have to accommodate and develop those new products that meet those needs. And they are. Workforce freezes or cuts. That's inevitable. We do have to survive. Companies with low cash are delaying new product introductions. They're putting them on the shelf, but that's okay. We are also looking at new target markets and new outlets of distribution. And we're also investing. Those that are really, really trying to stay ahead of the game and be proactive about it are investing in long-term advertising and in long-term market share, such as Walmart. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And there are also some companies are cutting costs, except R&D and advertising, which to help the bottom line. They're playing the premium and low-cost fighters to minimize the profit margin declines, and they're investing in new products in a variety of markets. So that's really the bottom line of what's happened from these companies that we studied. Now, how do we really look at marketing in a recession? Well, this is a framework that I've developed over the years, and we have a strategic marketing online course that is available through Marshall's Executive Education, so I encourage you to consider taking this course, which will be available in May. But this is the framework that we use. We really want to say, all right, how do we really assess today's conditions? How do we really say, where are we today? Because we have to understand the industry. We have to understand the competition. We have to understand the value chain of the players and the partners that we are involved in, from the supplier all the way to the end customer, and the retailers in between, and the distributors in between. And we also have to understand our customer. Marketing always starts with the customer. Always starts with the customer, ends with the customer. Who are our most profitable customers? The platinum customers. What are their characteristics? How do they behave? How are they behaving differently? And then we look at, do they comprise 80% of our profit? Oftentimes there's a 20-80 rule, as you've heard. 20% of customers comprise 80% of your profits. These are the types of things we look at anytime, not only in a recession, but especially in a recession. So we want to say who are our platinum and our gold customers, our primary and secondary customers, and then we have to look at, we as a company, what is our core competencies? What do we do well? What do we want to capitalize on in our strength? And how does that improve the bottom line? Also taking into consideration the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. Then we look at what are some opportunities and what are the feasibility of the new products we're considering introducing or repositioning. And then how do we look at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And in the expanded version, what are the strategies to maximize those strengths and opportunities and to mitigate those weaknesses and threats? Then we develop recommendations. We develop recommendations all around what we just studied. And what we just studied was the situation analysis. Then we say, what did we learn? Then we say, what do we want to do? We recommend going to a certain target market. We recommend a different value chain, perhaps. We recommend the strategies for what we want to do around our 4 P's of marketing, and we look at the bottom line. What's most important also is our implementation plan. We can have all the best plans in the world, but if we don't execute well, it will not be successful. And we also want to say contingencies. We want to say, what are those if something goes wrong? And if our objectives are not being met, what is our plan B? If objectives are being far exceeded, what is our plan C? And what do we do? So this is the framework that I like to use as we talk about marketing new products and or services, and our repositioning of those services and products in a recession as well as in good times. So recommendations. All right, what did we really learn from doing the study on the marketers that have really thrived in this recession? Well, first is stay in touch with the customer. Always. I mean, we can't understand how to change our product portfolio unless we stay in touch with the customer. Has to be. Continually, how do we obtain continual feedback? You know, do we have panels? Do we do customer satisfaction research? Do we do surveys after people purchase products, etc.? How do we reinforce the emotional connection? So some of the marketers that have done very well, that have thrived in this time of recession, have touched on people's emotions. And here's an example. Hyundai is the marketer of the year. They touched on people's emotions. They looked at what was happening in the economy. People are losing jobs. People are losing jobs. If you're losing a job, you can't make car payments. And so what they did is say, okay, fine. If you lose your job, you can take your car back. It will not impact your credit report, and we really care about you. And that was amazing, because in a time in which car sales were down 22% in 2009, they exceeded that and increased their share from 3.4 to 4.1%. Amazing. So they listened to the customer. They listened to the needs of what was going on. Now, we also want to continue to develop trust. Obviously, there's been a lot of issues about trust in these times, and I think if we can, again, reinforce that we are honest, we are ethical in how we conduct our business and the products and services we sell, that goes a long way. That goes a long way. We want to protect and grow our customer loyalty. It's all about gaining and having customers for life, and that's really what's most important. We also need to focus on the bottom line. We need to increase our revenue and our growth, and we increase our market share. Oftentimes, the way we can do that is we can introduce new products to a new segment. That's the way we can grow a business. There are a lot of underserved markets, not only in the United States, but abroad. And a lot of marketers are capitalizing on those opportunities. So we want to make improvements to the customer experience. How do we gain customers for life? We want to make sure that we give them an experience that's memorable, that's positive, that really talks about every time we have an interaction with the customer or moment of truth, it is positive. That will bring customers back. We want to make sure we're more efficient. Obviously, a lot of people that have come back, like Howard Schultz at Starbucks, immediately looked at the bottom line. How do we cut costs? How do we get more efficient? How do we get more effective? How do we do everything faster, better, cheaper? How do we do everything faster, better, cheaper? And that's really what we want to look at. We want to improve our receivables management. We want to look at our reducing our cost of debt. We also want to improve our operational efficiency. How can we reduce the wait times of those lines in Starbucks so we don't lose customers? It's a way to do that. How do we fine-tune and invest in our portfolio? A lot of companies, again, if you have cash, are acquiring companies. But if you don't, they're divesting of companies that don't really fit the core competencies of the organization. These are the times to do it. These are great times to do it. And I think, how do we do that best? How do we redefine our business portfolio? How do we say, what do we really do good at, and what do we want to do? There's a little sausage company in Wisconsin by the name of Johnsonville Sausage. And all they do is sausage, Italian sausage and brats. And they say, this is all we do. And that's great. They're happy, they're doing well, and they're making money. So how do we also revisit pricing? How do we look at how we price products in our product portfolio and within each of our product lines? If we have a certain line of coffees, for example, do we have a premium coffee and then a medium price coffee and a lower price coffee? So kind of a good, better, best strategy. Oftentimes we look at that. And how do we find alternatives to price cuts? All right, so what do we do? Because people are looking for a bargain. They're looking for a better buy, and they're looking for better value. That's really, really important. So how do we really capture that so that our consumers and our customers feel as though what you offer is worth the price that that you have to pay for the product? Then we look at promoting the firm's products and services. A lot of people are not investing a lot of money in advertising. They're cutting back. Some of the major players like Walmart are increasing in advertising, and they're making people remember that there's a better buy. And as long as you can do that credibly and believably, it tends to work. But for those companies that can't afford it, there are better alternatives. Internet advertising is really expanding tremendously, as well as social media. So if you can find those target markets, find the customers that really want to buy your products or services, it's a better way to do it. You have to build awareness in your products. How do you get the word out there? Well, an alternative way to do that is through the internet and through social media. We also need to plan for the long term. How do we make sure that we are thinking about, as we come out of this recession, what do we do to plan for the long term? We should be putting our plans in place now. You should be putting your plans in place now. Don't panic. Position your firm in multiple markets and geographies. Mitigate the risk by going in different places. And test different things. I think what's really important is let's test some things. Keep investing in market research because, again, it's so risky to introduce a product if you don't understand if it's going to be successful. Invest the money in market research to be able to do it and to see what happens. Prepare now for possible long-game shifts in consumers' values. So the ninth recommendation here is planning for the contingencies. If we shortly have another recession or if something really goes wrong, make sure you have your plan B and plan C. If objectives really are not met, what do you do about that? And then lastly, position for new growth at the end of the recession. How do we be anticipatory? How do we be proactive and make sure that we are on top of our game as we come out of the recession, and we can introduce products and services that customers really want. Now, McKinsey did a little study, and it said the crisis. As we went through the economic conditions, they did the survey, and the survey was done in September 2009. All right, and so this is like a year out after the recession happened. And they said, well, what do you think we're doing right? Where are we right now? And people said, we're not in a recession. This is the new normal. This is the new normal because this is the way business is being conducted today. There's disruptive technology. There's disruptive innovation. There's disruptive way of doing business. And we're not going to go back. We're not going to go back. So how do we capitalize on this new behavior? How do we move from this benchmark and this baseline and move forward? So what the survey said is that we expect industry consolidation. The big get bigger, the big get stronger, the weak go away or get acquired. All right, so that's going to happen. So we have slower growth rates. Things aren't going to happen to go up as quickly as they used to. We're going to have more innovation. And I will always say, innovate or die. Because if you don't innovate for new products and new services, somebody else will for you. And then you're going to lose your sales and market share. So that's really, really important. And then profits eventually will rise. We need to continue to cut costs. We need to continue to be lean and mean. We need to continue to look at ways to be more efficient. We have to reduce our capital investments and headcounts. We have to make plans for shorter periods of time because we really don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. Let's live now and make sure what we have those investments to be able to make sure that they pay off. We do believe, that the survey believes, that we're going to be in a stronger position in 5 years from now. That's positive, and that's good. And our high priorities should be innovation and long-term planning. They should be innovation and long-term planning. So a couple of another examples of what's really going on in the recession, and this is kind of fun to look at, because you say, all right, what are some ways and products in our portfolio that have really done well and what have not done well? Well, when you look at that, it's very interesting because what you see is some of the products that have done well have been, and I hope that you can see this, in times of recession, people behave differently. And so, for example, here's an example of home security systems. Home security systems are doing well because people are staying at home more. So what's happening here? Computer repair services. Computer repair services are really doing well because people aren't buying new computers. So if you're in the computer industry, so every time that you can look at a recession, you can say, all right, what products are going down in sales and what products are going up? And how do we capitalize on them? All right, so if you're a computer manufacturer, you want to look at kind of how do we make sure that we're doing the best that we can in repair. If you're in a home security environment, great. Now, if you are in frozen foods, frozen vegetables are doing really, really well. Why? Because people are staying at home. All right, what's interesting is ice cream. And sometimes it's going very well and sometimes it's not. But people want treats. Sales of chocolates are going up. All right, that's good. And so also, health clubs are going down. So if you own a health club, I don't know what you're going to do, but this is, at least you're going to know what's going on. And then skincare products are going down. So you can look at what we've done in terms of studying all this. There are various categories that go up or down. And I think it's really the marketer's challenge to say, because of the time of recession, what can you do differently? Now, one of the biggest challenges, and also different types of products are going up. Well, General Mills has seen its profit climb 49%. Why? Because it's selling more cereal. Why? Because people are not spending a lot of money, and cereal is a relatively inexpensive meal or a meal alternative. All right, so that's great. And Walmart is also doing an incredible job. And what's great about Walmart is they are really also looking at value. And one of the things that Walmart does, obviously, an incredible company to watch and to follow. But they've not only increased their advertising, they've also increased their sales of private label. And their private label brand is called Great Value. Great Value, and all of the major manufacturers are doing an incredible job of retailing their private label product. private label product is they're called great value. Now, what they've done here is they've said, we want to be a resource, we want to use their clout, we want to keep their budgets up and embrace analytics. But what's very important to them and what they're saying is we don't want to forget the right ad message is still vital. If you don't hear and don't believe that Walmart provides value, people aren't going to buy it. It does say save money and look better, and that's great. But it also has to say we put our money where our mouth is, we have the quality product. Now, a lot of the major manufacturers like Procter & Gamble and Unilever and Clorox are really threatened by the retailers that have private label products to the tune of them being pushed out of the grocery stores. What Safeway has done is it has introduced 4 different product lines in private label. And this is a big threat. And I think what manufacturers of packaged goods need to do is to really look very carefully at how their products and their value and their pricing compares to Safeway's, for example, core, expertise, destination, and wellness brands, because that is their major competition right now. So, in times of recession, retailers are now entering the space where manufacturers used to be in a much bigger way. So these are the challenges that really are facing all marketers, regardless of what industry you are in. And so I think what that says is let's look at taking charge. Let's look at the fact that we want to make sure that we provide a new value products and positive brand experiences. And if we have to, and develop fighting brands, such as Love's in the past has done that. Starbucks has done the Via, the instant coffee, cheaper alternative, and way to they be able to look at portability. So they've also listened to what customers are doing. Because right now, a lot of the meals are being consumed out of home. Brand as an enabler, long term. People will pay a premium for brand. And so how do you, if you have branded products, how do you capitalize on the equity of why you would pay $1 more for a cup of Starbucks coffee versus just going and making one yourself? How do we distribute content better? Well, with all the social media and all the things that were going on with YouTube and Facebook and MySpace, etc., all these things are doing are sharing and spreading the word, because now our customers are becoming our enablers and spreading the word of mouth. Customer service is king. As we think about a greater experience in marketing, we want to make sure that customers realize that they're a service and that people care about what they buy. And when you go into a fast food restaurant or you go into somewhere else, that people are friendly and people care about what you want and make sure it gets right. Our next generation listening and targeting is all about social media. And I will always say that if you don't have social media in your integrated market communication mix, you're missing the boat. So how do you look at blogs? How do you look at ways to distribute content in new ways? And lastly, we need to measure our results. We need to make sure that we are having the metrics in place, financial metrics, customer metrics, operational efficiency metrics, and employee metrics to make sure that we have the best customers being served by the customers and the employees that really care about where they work. I'd now like to open up to questions. And I thank you very much for joining our session today. And I hope that we have an opportunity to see you again. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. The first one states, innovate or die. I like that, exclamation. With budget cuts, how can you explain to your boss to be creative and try new things when there's no money to do it?
Good one. Okay. I think that one of the things you have to do is if you're really, really strapped, you have to sell a story. And so the question is what kind of products you think you can do? How much would it cost to do that? And I think if you do projected sales and costs and say that you know you can make X amount of money, you have to be able to sell a story that this would be profitable in the short term and in the long term. Now, one way to do that is if you can develop the product at a very inexpensive cost, test market it. Test market it. Take it to a small market and try it and see what happens. That's what Charles Schwab did when they were in trouble with discount brokerage. They got caught in the middle. And so they introduced in a test market their Talk to Chuck campaign. It was very successful in a small marketplace, and then they were able to introduce it nationally, and it's still alive about 5 years later.
Are there concerns about drastic marketing tactic changes in relation to protecting your brand?
Yeah, I believe there are. I think that the real challenge for people that have branded products are that they're getting squeezed by private label. And so the biggest challenge I see is how do you develop brand equity? What do you have to do to be able to say, why would I pay that 10, 20, 30, 40% premium? And I think that really talks about quality, and it really talks about consistency. And I think you really have to market, if you're in a branded product, you really have to market the quality, the consistency, and the reputation that the brand has. Otherwise, people will go to a cheaper alternative. Now, I do think it varies by industry, and I do think it varies by product. I think that what I've studied is that the non-durable goods, the paper towels, the toilet paper, people tend more to go to the private label because there isn't that much of a distinction. But when you're talking about edible products like Heinz ketchup, and you're talking about products that are better known or are higher quality, the clothes that you buy, the branded clothes that you buy, whether it's Ralph Lauren or whether it might be some other brand name, that's where people will pay a premium. So I really think you have to emphasize the brand and the quality and the consistency of the brand over time.
Then last question, are there any marketing tactics that are done during a recession that should not be done when you are not in a recession?
I think that you have to be, the tactics that should be done in a recession that shouldn't be done not in a recession, I think you have to act faster. I think you have to act faster now because time is of the essence. Every day that you're not getting sales in the door, or or people are continuing to spend less money, is money that that is not coming in to your company, or profit is being lost. Thank you very much.